Folks, I know I sometimes do some more light-hearted videos on this channel, but I feel the time has come to discuss one of the fundamental, most serious global issues facing humankind today, and that is, should Jehovah's Witnesses own pets? Now I know your first thought may be, my man, I believe there may be possibly more pressing world issues to address first. Now I can't argue with that. However, we need to view it as Jehovah's Witnesses do. For the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, there is no issue too small for them to weigh in on. After all, this is the religion that has told its members what material would be unchristian for their jacket buttons to be made out of. I refer, of course, to a classic 1960 Awake magazine which asked incredulously, "Will boys dressed in skin-tight jeans and jackets with ornamental lacing and leather buttons make good husbands?" One cannot help but wonder. So, for a religion that is more than happy to weigh in on such minutiae as whether jacket buttons made out of leather are appropriate for Christians, I think we can't not consider the question of whether witnesses should own pets. What got me thinking about this is there's an argument or line of reasoning fairly common among ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, which goes something like this. The rule that witnesses can't celebrate birthdays is dumb because there's not actually anything in the Bible that says Christians can't or shouldn't celebrate them. It's more just that the two mentions of birthdays in the Bible have bad vibes, I guess you'd say, and it's primarily those bad vibes that are the reason witnesses don't celebrate birthdays. Now, as an aside, I would argue that the actual reason witnesses banned birthdays is not that reason, which is the one that witnesses usually mention. It's actually a totally different reason that's rarely brought up, which is that after they followed the example of the Puritans and banned Christmas in the late 1920s, the Bible students, as they were then known, began to feel pretty guilty about the fact that they were all still celebrating their own birthdays every year, while at the same time kind of stiffing Jesus and not celebrating his birthday at all anymore. In fact, this point is made in a 1995 Watchtower article. It says, "In time, it was seen that if the most important birth that ever took place could not be celebrated, we should not celebrate any birthday." So various folks have pointed out, hey, if a main reason that witnesses don't celebrate birthdays is that birthdays have bad vibes in the Bible, well, you could equally say that Jehovah's Witnesses shouldn't own dogs as pets, because dogs are in that exact same category, where there's nothing in the Bible that specifically says Christians shouldn't own dogs, but dogs do kind of have bad vibes in the Bible. Well, that always sounded right to me, but I never actually sat down and checked it out for myself, so I thought maybe, hey, we could do that today. Let's check out some verses that mention dogs and see what the vibes are. All right, the first one I have is Deuteronomy 23, verse 18. "You must not bring the hire of a harlot or the price of a dog into the house of Jehovah your God for any vow, because they are something detestable to Jehovah your God, even both of them." Now, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, it's not literally talking about what a dog costs here. The price of a dog is referring to the price for a male prostitute, as opposed to the hire of a harlot, the price for a female prostitute. But either way, bad vibes. Okay, number 2. 1 Kings 21, verses 23 and 24. This is where we have the account of Ahab and Jezebel being punished by God for their wickedness. The punishment is that they would both be killed, and then Jezebel's dead body would be eaten by dogs, and Ahab's blood would be licked up by dogs. And also as regards Jezebel, Jehovah has spoken, saying, "The very dogs will eat up Jezebel in the plot of land of Jezreel. Any one of Ahab's that is dying in the city, the dogs will eat up. And anyone dying in the field, the fowls of the heaven will eat up." And then this prophecy of Elijah is fulfilled later on in 1 and 2 Kings. Okay, number 3. Psalm 22, verse 16. "For dogs have surrounded me. The assembly of evildoers themselves have enclosed me. Like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet." So yeah, I guess we have a pretty clear connection there between evildoers and dogs. Number 4, Proverbs 26:11. Just like a dog returning to its vomit, the stupid one is repeating his foolishness. This is maybe the quintessential verse about dogs being bad or gross. In fact, this proverb is even requoted in the Greek scriptures at 2 Peter 2:22. Number 5, Isaiah 56:10. His watchmen are blind. None of them have taken note. All of them are speechless dogs. They are not able to bark, panting, lying down, loving to slumber. Now, first of all, clearly the writer here has some first-hand knowledge of dogs and their behavior. He's pretty spot on. But here he's comparing the religious leaders in Israel to dogs who don't bark to warn the people when they're going off track. Okay, another classic, Matthew 7:6. Do not give what is holy to dogs, neither throw your pearls before swine, that they may never trample them under their feet and turn around and rip you open. So yep, Jesus makes it pretty clear that holy and dogs don't go together. Okay, number 7 is the account in Matthew of the Phoenician woman asking Jesus to heal her demon-possessed daughter, and he initially refuses because she's not Jewish. So Matthew 15:26 and 27, in answer he said, "It is not right to take the bread of the children and throw it to little dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, but really the little dogs do eat of the crumbs falling from the table of their masters." And as the story goes, Jesus is so impressed by her quick wit and humility that he performs an exorcism on her daughter. Now, I have to say, this account of dogs in the Bible confused me a little bit because it's speaking of puppies or little dogs being inside people's houses as pets. And my understanding was that dogs were considered unclean by the Jews, and so why would dogs be in their house? So my first thought was that, well, this is not taking place in Israel, but in Tyre and Sidon. So it's not talking about Jewish people's customs. But on the other hand, Jesus is clearly familiar with the idea of dogs being inside houses. What I found out looking into it a little more, and this is something I honestly never picked up on as a witness, is that just because an animal is categorized as unclean under the Mosaic law, that didn't mean Jews could not touch or interact with the animal without becoming unclean. It just meant they couldn't eat that particular animal. So this is explained a little more clearly in the Witness's Bible Encyclopedia, Insight on the Scriptures. The fact that seals were evidently unclean for food would not necessarily rule out using their skins as a covering for the tabernacle. For instance, whereas the lion and the eagle were unclean, the heavenly cherubs seen by Ezekiel in vision were depicted with 4 faces, including that of a lion and of an eagle. Also, the copper carriages that Solomon made for temple use were adorned with representations of lions, and this undoubtedly according to the plans given to David by divine inspiration. The Israelites used unclean animals such as asses for mounts, it even being foretold that the Messiah would ride into Jerusalem upon an ass. Although John the Baptist had a most sacred commission to go in advance before Jehovah to make his ways ready, he wore clothing made from the hair of an unclean animal. All this tends to indicate that the distinction of clean and unclean were simply dietary, though at times also with reference to sacrifice, and did not require that the Israelites regard unclean animals with general abhorrence. Also, these, like the clean animals, were created by God, and therefore good, not loathsome in themselves. So this was very interesting to me. It's something I hadn't noticed as a witness. What I kind of get a kick out of now is there's a verse you'll hear almost every week or so at the meetings. It's 2 Corinthians 6:17, "Quit touching the unclean thing." For witnesses, everything is either clean or unclean. It's very black and white. But then we have this example that when Jesus came into Jerusalem, he didn't just touch the unclean thing, the donkey. He sat down on it and rode around for a while. So that kind of puts the kibosh on viewing everything in such black and white terms. Scripture number 8, Philippians 3:2. Look out for the dogs. Look out for the workers of injury. Look out for those who mutilate the flesh. So here Paul's warning the Philippian congregation to steer clear of ones that are advocating that all Christians need to get circumcised, using this term, look out for the dogs. Number 9. Revelation 22:15. Here it's speaking of those left outside of New Jerusalem. Outside are the dogs and those who practice spiritism and the fornicators and the murderers and the idolaters and everyone liking and carrying on a lie. So Jehovah's Witnesses interpret this verse as relating back to that first scripture we read in Deuteronomy 23:18, that dogs doesn't mean literal dogs, but that it means gay people. As the Insight book explains, all those who, like scavenger dogs of the streets, practice disgusting things such as sodomy, lesbianism, viciousness, and cruelty are debarred from access to New Jerusalem. So those are 9 selected verses that do indeed, I think it's safe to say, have bad vibes about dogs. And after some careful calculations, I find that 9 is more than 2, more than the 2 references to birthdays in the Bible. So based on those calculations, I think it's clear that witnesses should be treating dogs the same way they handle birthday parties. For example, when a dog is in the room, witnesses should leave the room until it's gone. Witnesses should clearly communicate to their Bible students that dogs are unclean and inappropriate for true Christians. Obviously, witnesses would never pet a dog in accord with the instruction to quit touching the unclean thing. And just like with movies that revolve around holidays, it would be inappropriate for witnesses to watch movies about dogs. Movies like Homeward Bound, Lady and the Tramp, The Secret Life of Pets, Milo and Otis, Best in Show, Hachi, Lassie. These might be mostly G-rated and seem like great family movies, safe for Jehovah's Witnesses, but not after learning what the Bible really teaches about dogs. Now, there's one point to think about, however. As governing body member David Splain pointed out, dogs aren't the only kind of pets.
In Jehovah's organization, there are dog lovers and cat lovers, and not everyone likes the same breed of dog or cat. Have you ever visited someone who has a pet that he thinks is just adorable? You take one look at the animal and you wonder how anyone could love a face like that. Yet he does. People are different, and their pets are grateful for that.
Okay, so does that mean that if we have a pet that's not a dog, we're in the clear? Whoa, slow your roll there, buckaroo. Let's think. Cats are the most common pet after dogs. So are cats okay to have as pets? What do Jehovah's Witnesses teach? Let's go to a 1955 Watchtower article with the title, Animal Worship, Ancient and Modern. The article begins, "The scene is a street in ancient Egypt. An angry mob is seen forming. It hastens down the street to a certain house where a foreigner, a Roman citizen, is staying, a guest of the king. The king hears of the forming of the mob and sends princes to try to dissuade the mob, but in vain. The maddened mob invades the house, lays hold on the Roman, and literally tears him to pieces in frenzied rage." What had the Roman done to merit this fate? What was his crime? He had accidentally killed an alley cat. Unbelievable? Preposterous? Not at all. Because of their worship of the cat goddess Pasht, which was to the Egyptians what Artemis was to the Greeks and Diana to the Romans, every cat was sacred. When a cat died, the whole household went into mourning, and cats were given elaborate funerals. Yes, the pagan origins of cats has been well explored by Jehovah's Witnesses. Here's another reference from the Insight book. Pibeseth, or Bubastis, was the seat of the worship of the goddess Bastet, or Bast, a feline goddess often represented with the head of a cat. The presence of a large burial ground for cats near the city testifies to the prominence of her worship there. An annual festival was held in honor of Bastet, drawing thousands of adherents from all parts of the land. So, much as witnesses never say bless you when someone sneezes because of its pagan origins, true Christians would clearly never own a cat due to their connections with worship of false gods. Not to mention, when you think of witches, what animal is always accompanying the witch? Why, a cat, of course. And more than just a pet, a cat was often viewed as the witch's familiar, a creature with its own magical powers. In fact, the Catholic Church once decreed that black cats are an incarnation of the devil. What's more, people superstitiously believe that a black cat crossing your path is bad luck. Why would a witness ever bring into his home something with such spiritistic connections? Okay, well, what about a pet rabbit? There's few animals more cute than a fluffy bunny rabbit, right? Well, think again. Check out this 1968 Watchtower. On this point, consider what is said by Funk and Wagnall's Standard Dictionary of Folklore, Mythology, and Legend, edition of 1949, volume 1, page 335. Children roll pash eggs in England. Everywhere they hunt the many-colored Easter eggs, brought by the Easter rabbit. This is not mere child's play, but the vestige of a fertility rite, the eggs and the rabbit both symbolizing fertility. Further, the rabbit was the escort of the Germanic goddess Ostera, who gave the name to the festival by way of the German Ostern. Do you think it is a Christian practice to encourage children to engage in a pagan fertility rite? This one's actually a 2-for-1 because we also get eggs tied into pagan practices, which come from chickens. So obviously those are out as well. In fact, really lots of animals have pagan connections. If we go back to that 1955 Watchtower, it tells us the cat, dog, cow, bull, sheep, wolf, lion, kite, ibis, hawk, crocodile, hippopotamus, ichneumon, frog, eel, snake, and otter were all objects of worship. So, yeah, having pretty much any animal for a pet is out for Jehovah's Witnesses. Either it was something unclean under the Mosaic Law, or it was worshipped as a god in ancient times, and for many of them it was both at once. Well, when I was preparing all this, I started to get kind of curious. What does the Watchtower organization actually say about witnesses owning pets? Well, and I'm guessing it's like this for the majority of world religions, it doesn't say a whole lot. As would seem logical, whether members own pets is pretty low down on the list of what's important for gaining or losing salvation. Kind of the main concern you see in the literature is that pets could chew up time and money that, don't you know, could be better used by giving it all to Watchtower headquarters. So let's check out a couple articles here. So we'll go back to that 1955 Watchtower, and this was a pretty spicy article. I'm just going to read a few lines from it. In Western lands such as the United States, animal worship takes the form of sentimentalizing over pets. Then discussing the American Feline Society, the article says, its president evinces a zeal and enthusiasm for his cause that is definitely religious, and therefore a form of animal worship. And there are other worshippers of animals, those who feel there must be a place in heaven for pets, those who are so concerned with the plight of lower animals that they are oblivious of God's requirements or the miseries of their fellow man. Included among such are many among the vegetarians and anti-vivisectionists. Their zeal resembles that of the ancient Egyptians. Those lacking in heart devotion to their Creator will become sentimental about creatures and serve them. Such is a form of worship. All that really matters now is obeying Jehovah's commandment to seek Jehovah, righteousness, and meekness, and to help others to do so by preaching the good news of the kingdom. Christians, while not abusing or needlessly destroying lower animals for sport, will put first things first. They will give their heart's devotion to their Creator Jehovah God, and will keep on seeking first His kingdom and His righteousness. Next, we have a 1972 Awake article with the title, Getting a Balanced View of Pets. It tells us, if we are concerned about pleasing God in our lives, there is need for caution with regard to the pets we may have. We may note that a wrong attitude toward the animal creation was involved in the first woman's fall into rebellion against God. She let herself be swayed by words appearing to come from the mouth of a serpent, a creature instinctively cautious, yet still an unreasoning animal. So that's just a wise reminder that whenever you encounter a talking snake, as one so often does in this modern world we live in, you should think twice before listening to it. I'm glad they took the time to include that advice. The article goes on to discuss the problem of people who extravagantly feed their pets human food, those who spend money on health care for their pets, those who even prefer the company of their pets to many humans. Some wild people even feel bad when their pets die. They may even take the time to bury them with a little grave marker. Imagine. After the article lays down the hammer that, by the way, just so you know, no pets are ever going to be resurrected in the new order, and also that animals will not live forever in paradise, so death will always be a part of human life, it points out how witness pet owners should handle things when a pet dies. It tells us, animals in Israel were not buried in cemeteries at death, but dragged outside the city and thrown away. That's how true Christians do it. The article concludes, yes, animals are wonderful in their place, but they can never really substitute for humans. To avoid becoming off balance in our viewpoint or emotional attitude, we should appreciate that it was the world of mankind that God loved so much that he gave his only begotten Son. True, the majority of humans today are not reflecting God's qualities and acting in his image and likeness. They thereby cause much sadness, frustration, irritation, and heartache. But not all are that way. We can find persons who will provide splendid companionship, persons who are admirable and lovable, who prove worthy of God's love. If we are willing to make the effort to find such, we need never be lonely or commit the error of turning to animals to receive what only humans can give. In 1980, the Awake magazine ran an article, Pets and People. And this article also kind of warns readers how much work and expense it'll be if they want to own a pet. It says, expenditures for pets include the cost of food and veterinary treatments. The latter may involve deworming and vaccinations, as well as special services for sickness and accidents. Time is involved too. Grooming, washing, feeding, training, exercising, giving care, affection, and discipline all take time. Of course, the amount of time varies with the pet and with individuals. Then there is the responsibility one has to the pet and to other people. For example, dogs desire human companionship and need time spent with them. They also need an enclosure suitable to their size. In modern city life, finding suitable accommodations can be a major problem for pet owners. Also, when a person travels, providing care for his pet can be difficult or expensive. The article ends, for many people, caring for a pet is a precious part of their lives. The pet's affection and loyalty, individual traits, and ability to react to its owner bring much pleasure. Others find that their circumstances, desires, or way of life restrict the time or facilities that they could provide, and so they decide against obtaining or keeping a pet. Yes, pets can certainly bring much joy to man, but it is good to keep a balanced viewpoint of them because pets can never replace or equal good relationships with other people. A 1989 Awake article, Can You Really Care for a Pet, kind of zeroes more in on that point at the end of the article previously that witnesses should maybe choose not to own pets. It says, not all adults consider the consequences of accepting another member into the family. They do not always foresee the inconveniences and responsibilities that a pet can bring. This may especially be true of Jehovah's Witnesses, who lead such busy lives in their Christian ministry and are often away attending meetings and Christian conventions. Then the problem of finding someone to care for the pet arises. Certainly, it would not be appropriate to miss Christian activities because of an overly sentimental attachment to animals. So, as you read these articles, the stance overall on pets is actually pretty similar to their stance on interracial marriage. It's not officially frowned on anymore. You won't get in trouble for doing it. But every time it's brought up, there's always a little caveat that, it's going to be tough. Do you really want to bring that hardship on yourself? You can, definitely. It's your choice. We just want to help you make the right decision, the best decision. So while this ostensibly has all been a discussion about why witnesses should or shouldn't own pets, you might have picked up on the fact that it's also kind of secretly a discussion about whether witnesses should or shouldn't celebrate birthdays. And if, as hopefully seems pretty evident by now, it would be rather silly for the religion to ban witnesses from owning pets, it's kind of equally silly for the religion to ban witnesses from celebrating birthdays. It's interesting to look at the most recent correspondence guidelines that have been leaked, which I believe is the 2007 edition. The correspondence guidelines is an internal manual for the service department at Watchtower headquarters to answer questions that come in from congregation elders. And in it, it points out that a witness cannot actually be disfellowshipped for celebrating birthdays. The closest they could get is being disfellowshipped for causing divisions if they were loudly advocating that everyone should celebrate birthdays. If I were a betting man, which of course I'm not because of its pagan origins of worshiping the god of good luck, Satan the devil, I would fully expect that witnesses will be allowed to celebrate birthdays at some point in the future. For one thing, it fits in with the recent trend in the religion of rolling back arbitrary rules which really have no clear basis in the Bible. Things like men being able to wear beards, women being able to wear pants, not being required to report how many hours you spend preaching each month. Secondly, allowing birthdays would fit in with the trend of the kind of fringier Christian religions, ones like Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormonism, Seventh-day Adventists. They're all wanting to be viewed more as mainstream Christian religions. And why would they want that? Well, they're each fighting over who gets the steadily shrinking group that is religious people in America and the world. The group of people that are willing to give money to religions, which are people that for these organizations are absolutely essential to keep them running in the manner to which they have become accustomed. Because although each of these religions will happily tell you that thousands of amazing things that God's done in the past and the thousands of miracles he's doing in our day, the one thing that he, for some reason, is always completely unable to do is give his one true religion on earth the cash it needs to keep operating. So we shall see what transpires in the coming years. To paraphrase the Grateful Dead, for those longtime witnesses who've desperately been trying to loyally keep in step with the present truth for many decades now, it's been a long, strange trip being a witness, especially the past few years. And I'm pretty sure the unexpected changes haven't ended yet, as the religion continues to do whatever it needs to maintain its market share in this tough sales environment. Well, that's about it for this video, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe if you'd like for more videos, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Take care now.